So it's basically the idea that the way that data is being expropriated from humans as a kind of exploitative practice of taking information about us and then using it potentially on us is similarly to colonialist practices of the past. So it's a kind of similar conceptualization of the right to objectify humans and use them for your own purposes, in many ways. So it's a kind of exploitative regime, and that's the kind of, surveillance capitalism is this notion that capitalism is currently buoyed by the practice of surveillance and data being the most valuable asset in society. So whereas before we might, see colonial practices which involve the exploitation of minerals or coal or whatever energy sources, as well as the people from those areas, we're now seeing similar practices enacted with regards to data. So that's where the idea of data colonialism comes in. Techno-feudalism, of course, is pointing out that these techno-elites are now so powerful that effectively this isn't a capitalist relationship anymore. It's almost like a feudal relationship. So that's Yanis Varoufakis's conception of it. And the point is we should definitely be worried about these things. They're already happening. But also, if you take transhumanism as an idea, say healthcare, for example, the NHS is this idea that we should all have free access to health, and that's based on the idea that health has a kind of normal level, which is what we'd call healthy. But these technologies would kind of break that concept of healthiness because health becomes effectively plastic infinite. So then who decides what is the level that everybody should have access? So that creates a problem. And then in capitalist structures as well, it means if you can afford the technology, you're better placed to then become more rich and powerful, which puts you in a better position to then become more competitive in the capitalist market, which means you get more wealth and power, and those who don't become less. So effectively you get this kind of divergence. You could end up in a position where inequality could mean a permanent end to kind of social mobility. There's a concept that Harari uses called the gods and the useless. The idea that there could just be a few people that have access to these tools and technologies that basically rule like gods, have a kind of, and everybody else is automated. The jobs are automated. They don't have a role in society, and they become the kind of the marginalized, the useless.
And that's Yuval Harari.
Yuval Noah Harari says that, yeah.